morning, everyone. Off to another one of my favorite campsites, also in an undisclosed location. Today it's just a single night. It's Saturday now, and I end up having to work on Friday. Sort of volunteered myself, we were running behind. But I was going to spend some time this time comparing wood versus propane campfires. I've used a wood fire all my life. When I was a kid and we lived on different ranches, we even cooked with a wood-fired stove. That would be the oven, that would be your stove. And we used, a fire in the fireplace to keep warm. And then for years and years, all the time when I've been out camping, it's the same thing. I always just use a wood campfire. So I'm very familiar with using a wood campfire. Also, as a carpenter, I have access to lots of wood. I could, in a week, get a couple boxes full of wood, and I'd use dunnage from, units of wood. That's the sticks of wood they put between units so a forklift can get his blades in there, lift it up. And I chop that up and use that for firewood. And also working in a cabinet shop, I had access to all sorts of different types of wood. Sometimes I would just bring cherry and just burn cherry. Sometimes I just bring birch. Sometimes I just bring alder. Sometimes I just bring walnut. Sometimes I just bring cedar. Cedar burns too fast, so need something else. So I got to use all sorts of different types of firewood and have all sorts of different types of fire for cooking and everything. And then about 10 months ago, I picked up a propane campfire. And so I've got some experience using that now. I probably used it like 40 different camping trips or so in the last 10 months. So we'll spend a little time talking about what I've noticed in the difference between using a wood campfire and a propane campfire. You can see from the quality of the road, not too many people come up here. Of course, that's one of his chief charms. No people, no garbage, no noise. Look at that view. Wow. We're on the back side of the mountain now. On the other side where we'll be camping, we'll have a completely different view, but just as nice. This is another one of those beautiful drives that I really love. This is, we're at about 1,500 feet right now, and this is a temperate rainforest in western Washington. So there's lots of ferns, especially sword ferns, just thick with sword ferns, and mossy, very green. Even now, when I guess it's September, but all through the summer it's just green up here. Very nice. This is about where I seen that grizzly bear, if it was, a few weeks ago. I don't mind black bears, but grizzly bears, they kind of worry me. I'm pretty sure that if people had been alive and around during the late Cretaceous, there would have been a whole bunch of morons trying to protect the dinosaurs. And they'd have the Tyrannosaurus Rex being an endangered species. And they'd be capturing them and setting them loose all over the place where you're trying to go camping. But happily, they went extinct. That's my opinion. Then we'd all be carrying around dinosaur spray, hoping that 10mm handgun or something will suffice. Home sweet home for the next 24 hours. Oh yeah, this is going to be nice. Here we are, all set up. I've been here like 5 times before. You can see a couple chunks of wood here that I've used to augment my leveling blocks before. So I'll be hanging out here with a view of White Horse, that direction, 3 fingers, and over here through the trees I've got a nice view of Mount Baker. All right, let's get camp set up. And there we go. Camp's all set up. There's 2 deer flies or horse flies. I call them beetle bugs buzzing around here. I'm going to hunt them down and kill them, and then I'll start enjoying my campsite. Well, I got one of them. The other one has flown off, vacated the premises, hopefully in search of a more hospitable jurisdiction. Well, I thought I'd go for a little hike out of camp here, visit the bear's pantry and see if there's any huckleberries left. Hopefully we won't find him up here scrounging around looking for some dinner ideas. Looks like all the fireweed has gone to seed. Looks like all the thimbleberries are gone too. Hound of the Baskervilles, Sherlock Holmes. Well, I have been engrossed in this book all afternoon, and I've read about 2/3 of it, but I think I'll set it aside now and talk a little bit about what I said we were going to talk about, the pros and cons of a propane versus a wood campfire. So let's go into some of the, I guess we'll start with the cons of a wood campfire. One of the worst things about a wood-fired campfire, of course, is the smoke. Whenever I would build a campfire in the past, I would bring 2 chairs, set one at one spot, and then about 100 degrees around the circle, I'd set the other one. Then when the smoke blew on me, I'd get up and go sit in the other chair. And when the smoke changed directions and blew on that one, I'd come back and sit in the other chair. And that would just go on and on, back and forth. If I'm trying to eat, whatever I'm doing, it was a real pain in the neck. Smoke gives me a headache. It stinks up my clothes. When I get home and take a shower, put on fresh clothes, I'd grab my hat and put it on, and oh, it would stink like smoke. And I know when I walk into a store or something, when I've been out camping, that I probably just stink of smoke. Some smoke smells nice, you know, if it's just a whiff of it or something. If I'm driving down the road and someone's been raking up their leaves and they've got a little fire going where they're burning up their leaves and you just drive past through it for a second, oh, that's a nice smell. Or if you just catch a slight hint of a campfire on the breeze, that's great. But you just don't want to stand in the smoke. And if you've ever stood by a campfire, you know that's true. As soon as the smoke comes, you're just choking and trying to get out of it. A propane campfire doesn't do that. You can stand right in the, well, there's no smoke, but you can stand in the exhaust or whatever of a propane campfire, and it just doesn't overpower you. You can smell it, you know, but you can just stand there right, and if it's cold, you can get right up next to it, and if the wind blows it right into you, it really doesn't matter. It's nice and warm, and you can just sit there with it. So smoke is a major drawback to a wood campfire and a major pro to the propane campfire. Another pro to the propane campfire is I can fill up my propane bottle. It's a 4-gallon, a 15-pound propane tank. I'll fill that up for, I pay $2.99 a gallon in 2023, so I always find it for $2.99 a gallon. And it usually costs me between $10 and $11 to fill it up. And that'll last me about a month of camping in the summertime. So that's 4 2-night camping trips. So a total of 8 nights for less than 12 bucks, less than 11 bucks. Look at the price of firewood. One little bundle of firewood will cost you anywhere from $8 to $12. Furthermore, if you do bring your firewood, you stop and you buy it somewhere, that firewood is just sitting out there and it's probably got bugs in it. Almost always your firewood is going to have bugs in it. If I put that firewood in the back of a Spike and come driving out here, those bugs come crawling out and they're inside Spike, crawling around. So the bugs from the firewood get inside your car and are crawling around as unwanted guests. Another thing I like about a propane campfire is when I get to my campsite, especially in the winter, and it's cold, I can light that thing and I've got 58,000 BTUs of heat just like that. And if I want to turn it down, I can turn it down. If I want more, I can turn it back up. But that's a lot of heat. You consider a Mr. Buddy heater, I have one, produces 9,000 BTUs of heat, and it's nice and warm. 58,000 BTUs of heat out of your average propane campfire. Another thing that I like about a propane campfire is it's no trace. I can set that where I want and burn it for hours, and when I'm done I'll pick it up and put it back in spike, and there's no trace. You cannot tell that there was a campfire there. Right here there's a campfire ring. Someone had built a campfire right in the middle of this turnaround area. And so I had cleaned it up. I've thrown off all the rocks and everything, but there's this big blackened area here. It had a bunch of nails in it. I brought a magnet and cleaned them all up and got them out of there. But it's a big blight here in the middle of this pristine area where someone had a campfire. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 spots like that. There's a big fire ring and a bunch of charcoal laying in there, and people usually have garbage laying in it and that sort of thing. That doesn't happen with a propane campfire. Another thing is that most of the summer there's been a fire ban. You can't have a wood-fired campfire. But that's usually not the case. If there's a fire ban, you can usually still have a propane campfire. And it is nice to have a campfire. When you're at camp, it's nice to have that fire going, the flames going. That somehow authenticates your campsite. It feels like you're camping. You've got that fire going. Another thing is if you want to get up and go for a little walk somewhere, sometimes I'll be camped a ways from a river or a lake or a viewpoint or something. Might want to walk off for 30 minutes or something. If you've got a wood-fired campfire going, you can't just leave it. So you got to put it out, pour a bunch of water on it and extinguish it. And then when you come back, you got to light it again, or you just can't leave. With a propane campfire, if I want to get up and go somewhere, if I want to walk down to the river and I'll be gone for half an hour, I just turn it off. And when I come back, turn it right back on, and the heat's instantly there. No waiting for it. And as I already alluded, sometimes there's a campfire ban where you can't have a wood-fired campfire. And even when you can have a wood-fired campfire, oftentimes I've been out with my campfire going and I see these sparks rising and the popping of the wood in there, snapping and crackling and stuff, which has its pleasing aspect. But I see those sparks rising up and I wonder, where are they going? Are they going up into a tree or something? So I always carried with me this sprayer, a backpack sprayer. It holds 3 gallons. You pump it with a lever, and the other has a wand that you can spray about 30 feet just in case the fire got away from me. I never have to worry about that with the propane campfire. There's no sparks. It's all contained. That's why they let you burn it even when there's a fire ban. When it comes to cooking, I prefer the propane campfire. The propane campfire is filled full of volcanic rocks, pumice in there, and they don't burn away. They just stay there solid all the time. So if I take a baked potato, which I will, I'll set it on there, put my pot on there to cook my meal. The structure of the campfire doesn't diminish from the flames. In a wood-fired campfire, you put your potato in there, you put your pot of boiling water on there or whatever. As the flames lick around, it burns up the structure, and whatever you have in there starts falling over. You can't count on it to stay in the same place. I can put my pot on this propane campfire and it doesn't move. It stays right wherever I put it. And I can turn the heat up and down. I can move it, put right over a flame or next to the flame or whatever I want to do to adjust it. Well, you can't do that with a wood-fired campfire. Now I know some people say, oh, but the flavor of a wood-fired campfire, cooking your hot dogs on it, cooking your hamburger on it, cooking whatever on it. I used to think that too. As I've said, I'm a carpenter and I worked in a cabinet shop, and I used to bring out various types of wood where I would only burn cherry, or I would only burn alder, or I would only burn cedar, or I'd only burn birch or maple or whatever, oak, whatever. I didn't notice, I was expecting that, I'm going to find out which one gives the best flavor when I'm cooking my hot dog or my hamburger. I couldn't tell a difference. There was no difference. And as far as the smoke goes, the smell of it, there was really no difference either. I was expecting alder to have like a great smell and impart some excellent flavor to my meals. I could never tell the difference. Another thing I like about the propane campfire is as I've already said, it'll burn, well, I haven't said it, but it'll burn around 1 pound an hour, maybe a little less than that. So I can burn at least 15 hours, that campfire. And that's at a medium heat. If I were to turn it down low, it would last even longer. But if I burn it at its medium to higher heat, it'll last about 15 hours. That's all night long for 2 nights. You never get a wood campfire to last all night long. No matter what you do, you're going to have to be getting up and throwing wood on the fire, or just letting it go out and not having a fire when it gets to the cold hours of the morning. That campfire, that propane campfire, burns all night long, no problem, and very safely. It stays always confined to where I put it. Another benefit of having the propane campfire is you just hook up the propane, make sure the tank isn't leaking. Just smell it when you put it on, then you light it up and you're got a nice safe fire. When I was using wood-fired campfires and I would go out and collect firewood, I'd have an axe with me and I'd be chopping the firewood somewhere. An axe is a dangerous thing. And if you're way out in a remote area like I am now, and you happen to cut yourself with an axe, which I've done, I kept my axes very sharp and all you'd have to do is just touch the point and you'd get a good cut. You're a long ways from help and you've got a very dangerous tool there that could cause you to need help. That axe or that saw, maybe you've got a chainsaw you're running, and that's a whole nother set of things there. If you're running a chainsaw, the noise, the stink of that in your car when you've got gas and oil mixture in there. So in short, the propane campfire is so much more convenient, so much less dangerous, so much more usable, user-friendly, and it allows me more time. I'm not looking for firewood. I'm not foraging for wood. I'm not over there poking on the fire and trying to keep it going. So I can kick back and I can do other things. I can stargaze. I can read a book. I can engage myself in photography. I can do any number of things where I just don't have to worry about the fire, but I still have that ambiance of the fire. And so that's just my opinion. And, as the saying goes, opinions are like armpits. Everybody's got a couple and most of them stink. But that's just an opinion too. Then I guess I'll end my long soliloquy here about campfires with something my grandfather said on my father's side. My father was Lakota, Sioux Indian, Rosebud Sioux. And what he said was, a white man builds a big fire and stands way back. An Indian builds a small fire and stands real close. I like being close to my fire. A propane fire is much easier to stand close to. Well, I've been up stargazing way past my bedtime. It's about 11 o'clock now. So I'm just going to go ahead and crawl into Spike, get in bed, and just call it a day. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the morning. Good night. Well, good morning. Looks like another beautiful day. The sun's getting ready to come up. Whenever I sleep in Spike, I listen to YouTube music, usually classical music, turned way down low, so my phone runs all night. And so when I woke up this morning, the battery in it was nearly dead. So you missed the thrilling excitement of me pulling out my jet boil and making coffee and cream of wheat. Hopefully you're good with that. Well, there we are, just like that, all packed up and ready to go. Another fine adventure comes to a close. I'm always told it's not safe to camp alone, so I really appreciate your being there. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me.